Welcome back, everybody, to the Hat Chat Podcast, episode 72. We're your hosts. I thought I'd try and match the tone. I'm Chris Trott.
Oh, nice one, Chris Trott. I'm Ross Hornby.
And I'm Alex Smith. And that fingal by Ben Luke threw me back to Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah.
A little
Very
bit.
90s vibes. Yeah, 90s rock.
I actually watched episode 1 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer like a week ago, just to get a bit nostalgia.
Any good?
Remember what? Well, I don't know if it was great. But then episode 1s of anything is never
it was
like
quite
amazing.
a different show at the start as
Yeah.
well. They made her really quite like ditzy.
Yeah. And none of them are teenagers really as well. Which I guess is the classic trope of any American show based in high school. They're all in their 30s and they're all just like, that's normal. That's fine.
Yeah. I wish Sarah Michelle Gellar and Charisma
librarian.
Carter went to my school.
Yeah.
I'd be like, is that her name Charisma Carter? Is that right?
Charisma Carpenter.
Carpenter, that's it.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Because like when that came out, we were like what 14, maybe around that age.
A little bit younger than that.
You think younger than that?
Yeah.
Buffy the
I really like that show
Slayer.
for many reasons.
I had Buffy the Vampire Slayer on videotape cassette.
It was a cool show. I liked how I
VHS.
really liked the premise and the fact that like this town is on like a gate of hell essentially, and that's why they have such a large amount of these things happening, and that they have this Slayer figure that like controls it, and I think that's really cool. It had Rupert Giles, is it? No, what's his name?
Rupert Giles was his name in the show, right?
Yeah, what's his real name?
Head and Anthony Head.
Anthony Head. He's called Rupert in Ted Lasso because he's in that as well.
Do you want to know how old you were when Buffy came out, Smith?
Yeah, go on.
You were 9 years old.
Wow.
But
It was
the other thing it highlighted
1997.
I don't think I watched it immediately though, because I joined it, I think, sort of second season on Sky, because it was on Sky again.
Yeah.
I know it's not 97 because I remember I was playing Final Fantasy 7 at the time
In 97.
and then occasionally whacking in the VHS cassette to watch some Buffy. But I forgot how much of a fanboy I was because I read the books as well.
Of Buffy.
Wow, you
I
are.
know. It only kind of came back to me when I watched that episode a week ago, and I was like, "Oh man,
I didn't know you even
was
liked
well
Buffy
into
that much.
Buffy the Vampire." No,
neither did I.
And I can't really recall many episodes either. But like at the time, I was clearly a big fan. I had the books, the VHS tapes.
I assume the books were just like made after the fact to tie in with the
they were
series.
just individual stories based in the
world.
The world, yeah.
It had some really good actors.
Yeah.
You know, it had who was the guy that played Spike? I thought he was great.
Yeah, everyone loves Spike.
Xander. I mean, it was cringy to watch that episode.
I mean, the
back,
Xander shit is cringy. It is just cringy. The Alison Hannigan stuff got cool when she became like a really powerful witch. That was really cool. But before that, it was kind of cringy. She was like a very nerdy girl next door. Well, like, you know, like whatever character. It was a bit of a strange thing. And then, oh man, there's so many things I can remember about that show. Actually, it really does. It stayed with me.
So Spike.
David Boreanaz was in it.
Billionaires, of course.
Is that his name?
We're onto the Angel series after that as well.
He was in it. He was in the show.
Sure.
I can't say that he was, I think, the best bit of it.
Yeah. But the one thing that did stand out was I think the design of their vampires was like
Scary.
a really fucking good design.
Yeah,
it was really like an interesting look. It didn't look too tacky. It kind of it worked.
They didn't go overboard either.
No.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
They always made like, and they were really good because obviously, like you said, everyone in that show was attractive. They used to make attractive people really scary looking as well. You know, like the way they morphed it to that like kind of vampire version where they suddenly shaved their eyebrows and made them swell up.
Gordon Ramsay ridges, yeah.
You're like, that has made that person scary and recognizable. But no, it was really good. Yeah. Love that.
Buffy.
So thanks for that.
I did not expect us to go down that tangent for episode 72 of Hat Chat. You know where I know we're going to go? It's into the hypotheticals. That's guaranteed.
Oh, of course it is.
Every week.
Has to.
Of course, I send out a very timely question for our patrons at patreon.com/hatfilms, and they diligently vote on 3 options of hypotheticals. And I have them here, and the other 2 have no idea what they're about to get. So it's a big surprise. Right. Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
With one vote in it, here's number one. If you had to be stuck, and this is pretty convenient, if you had to be stuck in a TV show for a month, what show would you pick? I'm pretty sure we've done something very similar to this.
We have with the
like a cartoon world.
Universe do we want to be in, right?
Yeah. So now it's specifically a TV show rather than movie.
Right, let's not think too hard about it because there's so many questions we could ask about. Like,
Buffy the Vampire
Slayer. Would I retain the skills I got? Am I better at learning in this world because of, like, for example, if I went to a world where there was magic and I learned to do the magic in that world, would I then be able to do that world magic back in this world?
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask questions like that, so I'm going to try and be funny.
You get to be a character as well in it, so you can pick the character and have their traits.
My mind's gone completely black. Like, we're talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and that's all I can think about now.
It's hard to get that
all
out,
I can think about. I'm trying to think of other TV shows that I've watched recently.
The next one that came into my mind was The Sopranos, which is just the real world with mafia.
This is the thing. It's still the real world, but obviously you've just got that narrative
tied into the mafia, which is really bad.
Mafia, yeah.
I don't think I want to be in that world.
So you want to go
Westworld would be interesting.
That would be.
Westworld would be interesting.
I'd like to be John Coffey in Green Mile.
John Coffey.
That's not a TV show.
That's not a TV show.
It's a movie.
Okay. Dial it back. Back to TV shows.
Justice League, the cartoon TV show. I'd like to be the Martian.
I'd like to be the one shooting Trott into space. Finally, he's gone.
What about Squid Game? Do you want to be in the world of Squid Game?
Nope.
I mean, I've seen some reports recently that they were saying that people are living like that in the first place, so that, like, with debt and stuff, and it's actually not, too dissimilar to reality.
Well, if there's a real one actually happening, we just don't know about it.
Exactly. The billionaires could be doing all sorts. Those bloody billionaires.
I'm sure stuff like that happens without all the amount of production that went into it. I'm sure they just do like the bum fights style thing. I bet that goes on with Billionaires, where they just play with people's lives
in a
really insidious way. It's got to happen, right? Where like billionaires just get bored.
Did you watch bum fights, Trott?
No.
Did you ever see any bum fights?
Discussing it recently.
We mentioned it the other day. It's horrible. It's awful. Like, they were literally punching each other's teeth out, and some guy was just like, "Hey, I'll give you $30 if you just punch that guy." And he's like, "What?" And this obviously, kind of haggard-looking dude, which that's what you expect from bum fights. He goes, beats up another guy.
Awful.
And that's just what that show was, and it was acceptable at the time. I think
your click though, didn't it?
Got my was it a click at the time? Yeah, it would have been. Yeah. But that was like CKY era. I wouldn't class that as a TV show. I don't want to go there, even though it was real life. It was just a guy with a camera.
Give it that accolade.
No, I'm trying to think now.
Stargate, Smith, you'd want to be in Stargate, surely.
Fantasy stuff. Do you think?
Oh, that would be cool. But the thing is, though, as exciting as those shows are to watch, they're in constant threat. Like, why would you want to be in a world like that? Really,
find Teletubbies.
Teletubbies, Jesus Christ, that's a hell. That would be hellish.
I want to be Snoo.
Snoo.
I get to suck up all their pancakes and be naughty.
I think there's basically a world or a TV show where you have some form of power, like that you can't do here, right? Like being able to fly. How to Train Your Dragon. Is there a TV show of that? I think I'd enjoy that.
Probably
there
like
is.
A cartoon
there actually
series.
Yeah. Well, we have to do some research.
I mean, there's a Star Wars, like Clone Wars series. I mean, you could be a Jedi,
constant threat.
There is always threat. You want to be
the title,
you want to be chilling out.
It's literally a full-blown war going on.
Yeah, I don't want to be
I want to be in Game of Thrones. I want to be one of the dudes who's constantly getting laid.
Again, that's just a huge war of like
orgies everywhere.
I mean, you could be
one of those dudes. Background character.
Or I'll be orgy man.
Yeah, but what if you found out that you were in Teletubbies, but you were the vacuum cleaner?
That's what I just said.
Well, he wants to be
Snoo. Say that. Sorry, I
want to be Snoo. Yeah. Sucking up all the pancakes.
Was it called Snoo? Was it?
Yeah.
Sucking up.
Isn't that like Snoo? Isn't there another name from something else?
Is that how you like to eat pancakes?
Nunu. Was it Nunu? Not Snoo.
Snoo something else, isn't it? That's in Futurama. Those
Killer by a
the
snoo-snoo.
giant women who were snoo.
Yeah, the Amazonians.
Yeah, Amazonians.
Futurama would be an interesting show. You could just pick one of the weird, wacky worlds to be on and live like that. Because that's not in constant threat, is it, really?
I think that being Rick in Rick and Morty would be very fun.
I mean, he
because
seems
he is
extremely depressed as well. Like, so he's
but like, you're not going to be in that world forever, so you wouldn't be depressed.
You got a month,
yeah, you got a month there.
A lot happens in one episode, so
well,
lots to dodge. If anything, it's kind of like, what's the worst place you'd want to you could go? What's the worst? Kind of like The Purge,
worst
or something,
TV
where
show.
you are like, it is just constant threat, but also everyone.
Squid Game would be.
Well, I guess Game of Thrones again. Yeah, Squid Game is because there were 500.
It's very real, and you can see yourself being in that scenario, or be forced to be in that scenario, and that's just pretty scary.
Star Trek, I think, would be pretty good. Like Star Trek during like the Enterprise, kind of like the Next Generation or whatever they're called. Like, it's basically a utopian society within Starfleet. You can replicate any kind of food you want from matter. There's a holodeck where you can create any kind of environment to you.
Would you want to be in the Starfleet, though?
Explore the universe. Yeah, I would love to be in something like Starfleet. Yeah, like an exploration service, not a war, like necessarily a military service. Like that is quite unique. We don't really have that at the moment because we've explored a lot of the planet. I mean, I guess you could join some form of exploratory submarine crew because only 5% of the surface of the sea, the oceans we really know about. But yeah, we don't really have anywhere to explore really anymore. Beyond just personal, like seeing things for the first time yourself. You don't really get to. Everyone knows what's beyond the next ridge a lot of the time.
I think there are parts of the Amazon, isn't there, that people haven't actually stepped foot.
I suppose so. Yeah, no, I suppose that's potentially true. I mean, I think that a lot of it
on the ocean,
a lot of noteworthy stuff that we can fly over and see from the air will probably be in some way catalogued. But you're right. You could perhaps go really deep into a jungle and find new things. But I think something like truly different, like truly unseen, a planet or a world that is fundamentally different to ours would be very interesting to see. Speaking of which, there's a telescope going live very soon, which is going to give us far more information, essentially, about the universe around us, to the extent of we're going to hopefully be able to detect a lot more about exoplanets. So
the James Webb Space Telescope.
Yeah, the James Webb Telescope is going to, among lots of other things, be able to give us much more information about like the exoplanets that we see or we think we see orbiting stars in the distant space, which is going to be really cool. We might be able to find evidence of advanced life, with this telescope, which is really cool.
That is very cool.
And is that in a TV show? Can we get that is that a TV show you could be in?
Well, that's real life.
Oh, that's real life. Yeah,
stupid
a reality show,
something like that.
What if I named some TV shows from the 2000s?
We say yes or no.
You say yes or no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Heroes.
Yes. I like the Heroes. Well,
you would stay in Heroes. What about? I mean, again, Heroes is more fantasy. I guess there's so many shows that are just obviously based in reality, the real world that it's kind of like a bit dull. Like, I mean, Band of Brothers. Would you want to be a soldier in World War II?
No.
Nope.
No. Okay. Lost.
No.
You're in a plane crash, a horrifying plane crash at the start,
and you might have died already.
You're in Hawaii.
I think of all the cataclysmic events to happen to me, like say somebody was going to say you're going to face massive like challenges in your life, and that challenge is you will be stranded on a paradise island. I would be like, fuck yeah, I'll take that option because I think I like the outdoors. I like trying to solve problems with.
It is a month as well. You might be all right.
A month. I mean, again, I don't really know the time scale of Lost is all over the place, and also
it is.
I don't think I ever saw anyone die of hunger in Lost. I watched, I think, almost every episode of Lost.
Yeah,
they caught a pig very early on, and I think that.
Yeah, almost caught a polar bear as well, which was never explained.
Weird.
That was episode 1.
Was it episode 1?
I think so. Yeah.
No way.
They always cram a lot in the first episode, and that was in there, and they just didn't know what to do with it after. Like, well, do we reference it again?
We got to tie that in.
Shit. Jet fuel fumes they were seeing things.
Maybe. How about Firefly?
Yeah, I would like.
Maybe.
It'd be pretty horrible existence, but for a month that'd be quite fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just anything where you can, with reasonable security, fly through space in a craft would be really cool. It's just, am I potentially going to be blown to pieces and exposed to the vacuum space? Is what I want to know.
It's always a fear, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
They're scary in
How
Firefly.
about Dawson's Creek? You could be Dawson.
Yeah, and I desperately try and tell.
I don't want to wait.
I desperately try and tell Katie Holmes not to marry Tom Cruise.
I got something to tell you.
I've real life an alternative dimension where we were joking about the idea of if we could live in a TV show. Well, we've worked it out. And for God's sake, don't marry Tom Cruise. If you ever meet someone called Tom Cruise, don't do it. Don't do it.
What else is there? Scrubs. Again,
hospital.
that's still a real life scenario. You could just go to a hospital.
It'd be interesting if I had the skills of a doctor or a surgeon to try it. Definitely, it might be an incredibly fulfilling career. But if I can tell anything, is being in the NHS is just really hard work.
Yeah.
So,
man, this telescope's really cool. Sorry, I was reading about it. Hot facts, if you're interested.
Back to the telescope. So this is the James Webb.
James Webb. Yeah. Unless you have any more 90s shows you want to rattle.
No,
I mean there are, but most of them so like in reality that it doesn't really it's not worth it.
Okay.
In my eyes.
I think we've covered a good spectrum of shows.
Yeah.
I hope you've thought of some at home. So there's a primary mirror made of 18 separate segments that unfold and adjust to shape after launch, which I imagine is so fragile and vulnerable, like taking that up in a rocket and for all those 18 pieces to unfold into the right. I can only imagine the engineering involved. The mirrors are made of ultra lightweight beryllium, and its biggest feature is a tennis court-sized 5-layer sun shield, which attenuates heat from the sun more than 1 million times, which is insane.
Jeez.
It's got 4 instruments on it, cameras and spectrometers. They have detectors that are able to record extremely faint signals, like Smith says, hopefully super accurate, new information. One instrument, the NIRSpec, has programmable micro shutters, which enable observation of up to 100 objects simultaneously, which is wild. It also has a cryocooler for cooling the mid-infrared detectors of another instrument to a very cold 7 kelvins, which is 447 Fahrenheit, so that they can work. So there's a literal cryo chamber.
Minus 400. Oh.
It says, minus 447 Fahrenheit.
Difference.
Literally so it can function, which is wild.
Yeah. So how far are these? Is that just going to be sent out as far as possible, like the Hubble?
I think it will be orbiting.
Is the Hubble?
No, I mean, it'll have an optimal position in terms of data communications and what you can see, I imagine.
Right.
I imagine it might be in orbit, but it might be in geosynchronous orbit. I don't know whether or not. I don't know. Would be my answer, but it won't go out too far.
What about Supernatural? Sorry. That's one you guys liked a lot.
Again, constant threat. They were having to kill something every episode, pretty much.
You'd have
they
to
had
also
a great
be
brotherhood,
I feel like the sorry, that's my doorbell. You'd have to be hanging around Sam and Dean in order to see all these things, because they are actually quite hidden threats, really. They go out and find like Bigfoot and vampires and stuff, which are hidden from plain sight. So, and you would be at the forefront of threat, like Smith says, by hanging around with those two. And then it turns out, anyway, I'm not going to spoil it, but yeah.
What about Baywatch? I mean, that's where you can just chill out on a fucking beach. You can just chill out on a beach, and these people are just constantly saving lives. You're just like, oh, nice.
That'd be a good month off, wouldn't it?
Or you're drowning.
Sorry, just because I can't stand to have people correct me. No, I can. The satellite is going out to a place called Lagrange Point 2, which is actually quite some distance. I believe it might be equilateral distance from Earth to the Sun. It's quite some way. So it will actually go out quite a long way. But we can still communicate with it, which is quite amazing.
Epic.
But it's going out quite some distance.
I don't believe it has any sort of visual cameras, as in it's mostly infrared and detecting signals rather than being a Hubble, which creates imagery. So it's more going to pick up on...
You can get I think you can get like a lot more information and a lot more distance by using radio
Infrared.
telescopes than you can using optical, just because optical is just not as powerful. It doesn't work in the same way.
Isn't that how they mapped the black holes recently? With several infrared, but that was from Earth, right?
Yeah.
So they then correlated the data and then figured out the shape and what it looked like using maths. Maths is useful, guys, apparently.
What the hell?
Should have told me that.
Did you watch that Edge of the Black Holes Edge of What We Know?
Yeah,
like that explains it really well. Like, I mean, it's a lot.
It does and it doesn't. It's like very confused. Like they don't try and baby you. They're very much
no. It's quite heavy science, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's good. Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. No, I thought that as well. I was like, Jesus, this is heavy like science every so often. But then they intercut it with like some really pretty like visuals and things like that, don't they? Like when they're looking in the water tables. How cool was that water table thing?
Yeah.
Really cool.
Well done.
So this is really cool. This ad break. Wow. I mean, that was really sudden and very obnoxious. So I apologize for that. But hey, you could have it ad free if you're on our Patreon. Don't know why I laughed so maniacally there. Sorry. So we have an option if we want to get into funny news, or we have a second hypothetical. What's everyone feeling this week?
There's funny news, but what's the second one? I want to hear it. If it's shit, I'll just move on. Yeah.
Okay, sure. A friend murders someone for good reason. Okay.
Right.
But they can't go to the police for whatever reason.
Okay.
How would you either dispose of the body, or would you turn them in?
What's the good reason?
Yeah, what is the reason?
It's got to be a good enough reason.
If it's self-defense, then it's just like, well, I would call the police. So I'd be like, well, look, it's going to be a shit ride from here, but like, I'm not burying a body.
But they can't go to the police. They've decided they can't
become an accessory to murder by doing that. Like, okay, so we presume then that their reason was something incredibly good, like as in something we entirely agree with. But then they also have a reason to not tell the police, as in because they feel that they may be somehow culpable. So you have decided essentially at this point that you are going to help your friend because they've done something. You're basically helping to cover up a justified killing, which in legal terms wouldn't be a murder if it was truly justified. However, for some reason it isn't. So I would do, I mean, you'd try the classics, wouldn't you? You'd cut them up. You'd try and melt them in acid. You'd get a bathtub.
The classics.
I mean, it is that's accessory to the murder. So then you're like, you were just chilling out in your evening watching, I don't know, Supernatural, and then bam, someone's called you and they just told you now know of a murder. Trott just killed someone.
Why is it me? It's not me.
Well, because it has to be someone that he knows well, and it's going to affect his life in a major way as well.
I killed them, and you know what? If we go to the police, you're going down too, and I'm going to make sure that all your crimes are exposed. Sorry.
Wow.
I mean, this is a debate on how do you verify that your friends killed someone for a good reason, which is a complete. I mean, that is an ethical challenge for the ages.
A good reason. I mean, unless you were being attacked, which I think is definitely like, you know.
And then, like you say, you'd have legal recourse through self-defense laws. You know, like if you or proportionate. It's about proportionate force essentially. Like you have to be using proportionate force. So if there was an equal threat to your life, like say a person had a gun and they were about to pull the trigger to your head, and you spun round and took off their head with a machete. That is proportionate force. Yeah. If if they were chasing you, well, no, I mean, if it's a threat to your life, it's a threat to your life. But there are reasons that you can definitely do it. But I think in this case, there has to be a reason why you couldn't go to the police, because you're completely right. If you've accidentally killed someone, that's the best thing to do to limit, because they're gonna fucking catch you. The modern, like, as in with DNA evidence and things like that, you're pretty fucked. Like, I imagine it's quite difficult to get away with murder.
Yeah. What if it's like a prank? So, like, let's say he was trying to prank. He's trying to prank me. I was just walking down the road. Then he jumps out and trips me up. I stumble and smash my head on like a brick wall and die there and then in front of him. And he then calls you up and says, "Well, I really don't want a manslaughter charge, and he's definitely dead. I need you to help me get rid of the body." No.
I'm sorry this has happened to you.
He's trying to prank.
I really am sorry. This
just a prank,
and hopefully you'll be all right. But I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to incriminate myself, like ruin my life, because you trip some guy up who accidentally fell on his head. I mean,
it's not just guys, it's me.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter who it would be. Honestly, because even if it was like, you know, if it was anyone, you know, if it was like immediate family or something like that, you'd just be like, yeah, that's unlucky that that's happened, but you need to explain that it was an accident. Like, you know, you need to make sure, because I believe you probably would be all right. I think maybe it had diminished.
So what if I was crouched behind his car as he was reversing? He didn't see me, and then he feels a really large bump, but he keeps going because he's like, well, it must just be just a curb. And then my skull gets crushed under his wheel. He looks around and goes, oh shit, that was me. And there's no real evidence, no footage of this. But my head's been like squashed. Like
also,
really, like,
to add to the mix, I actually stole Smith's car and used it, and then I parked it back at his place.
So you are
that's calculated,
tires, mate.
So this is actually one of the only one of the only useful things I learned in my education. The difference between like murder and manslaughter, and I might get it wrong now, which would be hilarious. But essentially, there's a couple of different qualifiers for like the difference between murder and whether or not something was manslaughter or if it was just an unfortunate accident. Like basically in the case you said where somebody was hiding behind your car and then you rolled over and killed them, they'd have to establish, I imagine the Crown Prosecution Service or someone would have to establish that there was negligence involved. So you were negligent in your operation of that vehicle, which led to the death of this person, and then that would be manslaughter. However, if they couldn't establish that you were being negligent in any way and that you simply did not know that that person was behind your vehicle, it's an unfortunate accident. Like,
what if he pins me
with
against
Trott?
The post? Pins me against the post. I'm still kind of alive, but he's like, I said, oh, if you move your car, I'm probably going to die. He goes, well, I mean, I've got to go somewhere. And so he drives off, and then I die on the street. But he didn't see me there to begin with, but I am pinned there. And he looks like, oh, what the fuck is that? And he sees me pinned there. Like, I think if you drive forwards, my guts are going to spill out. And then he's like, well, I really got to go. And also, maybe it'll help. You don't know. So he drives forward thinking it's going to help. And I just die in the crumple heap, but he drives off.
So you got to establish that he had a duty of care to you. So that's something you need to do. So you need to establish that you had a duty. The driver had a duty of care to you, as in like whether or not they were responsible for you. And then because you omitted to act, so omission is also potential for a manslaughter charge, because you failed to act in an appropriate way based on your duty of care, you would be possibly not with the calculate. So the thing about murder.
I dismiss this case. I'd be like,
the thing about
he
murder
wasn't a doctor. He didn't know his guts are going to fall out.
Well, exactly. I mean, this is how you would argue it. And that's what's quite interesting about law. Like
then I'd incriminate myself saying, I'm glad his guts fell out. I wanted to get to Lidl.
Yeah, hours before I jokingly put salt in his tea instead of sugar, and then later on I'm dead.
He had it coming.
And
then I'd try and run out the courtroom whilst being tackled to the ground. It'd be quite dramatized, but anyway, carry on.
No, that's it. No, I mean, I hope this is helping you. I mean, with the whole like you deliberately getting my car earlier on, like that. Pretty good. That would be a murder charge for you, because it's what some people would call premeditated, but the official term is malice aforethought. With malice aforethought, so it basically means that it was premeditated. You intended to do it. You had an idea in your head if you wanted somebody to die, and then you acted in a way that
I plead insanity.
You plead insanity. So that doesn't mean that you just get off. So usually when people plead insanity,
free, and then I run, and then I get tackled to the ground.
He walks out of the courtyard, just go courtroom. Oh, don't go near him. He's insane. And they're like, oh, that's fine then. Now you get put in like a possibly worse than a prison, which is a mental health prison usually. So you'll be kept.
That sounds
and
quite
also
nice.
The thing about going to a mental health prison versus going to a regular prison is they can extend the amount of time you're in these mental health prisons indefinitely. So, even if there's a set jail term, if they deem that you're still out of control of yourself and a risk to the public, then you could just be in there for the rest of your life. So you could do that if you want. But I wouldn't probably recommend it. It's very romanticized, the insanity plea.
I'd throw like a piece of the person's body in your bed
to frame me.
I'd put it in your hand.
Yeah, and then I'd also eat it. I'd put it in the oven and I'd eat it, and then nobody would know because I'm a piggy and I eat everything.
Well, waste not, want not. It's only been one day out in the open. not
I think in reality, though, you would probably just call the police, though, right? If you accidentally killed someone,
there's very, very little scenarios where you wouldn't call the police.
You would just be like, well,
I don't think there is any
I have
scenario.
to call the police because, if you do anything else in that period of
You're
time,
incriminating yourself.
It's suspicious.
Yeah, you can't. That's a stupid question, really, isn't it? Ultimately,
of course. But
like
this was about if you murder someone and then get your friend to help you.
Yeah.
Would you help them?
Yeah.
But I would. There are situations where I would definitely, yeah, because I think that everyone deserves a fair shake at life, but not everyone deserves to live after their shake. You know what I mean? Like we all deserve equal chances, equal opportunities, and there's a lot of shit that can happen to you in your life that can lead you to do other shit things. But I also think that some people have fucked up so much that we can't really easily accommodate them in society anymore. I'm not really for the death penalty either. I will say. Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not at all. But so, I don't think there's an answer. I don't think there's an answer for something.
Murder.
No. I think incarceration is our only option at the moment because there's nothing else you can do with some. I mean, I know that's kind of crazy to say, but well, it's not crazy. I do think that some people, it's very, very difficult to save everybody. Like people who have done, fuck me. Look at what the guy from the Lost Prophets fucking did. Like,
well, yeah. Well, we don't have to go into detail, but
what do you do with people like that? You can't. Rehabilitation is one thing, and rehabilitation should be available to a lot of people, even in murder cases, because, like you say, people have gone down for murder for shit that, had sort of circumstances that perhaps weren't evil. But then some people do shit, and you're just like, man, you cannot fit in. How do we put you back in? There isn't an answer to it, but it is.
Well, it depends. It's complex, isn't it? Because obviously there's sometimes crimes of passion or whatever. So if you someone's caught, their wife cheating or whatever and killed a guy who's done it or whatever, that would be a crime of passion, and then it's down to the jury to decide whether it's a lengthy sentence or I don't know, but or like you say, pleading insanity or whatever. I don't know, but yeah. Each of these cases are very contextual. You need to know what the full details are.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I'm not in favor of the death penalty because I don't think that a person should have a right to take another person's life, especially when we can't be sure that people die on death row that do not deserve to be there. And you cannot make that mistake. So you cannot possibly have that outcome. So you need to remove the thing that creates that outcome. But anyway, it's a bit heavy, but yeah, I mean it's complicated, isn't it? Complicated old world.
Or an accidental murder like Saskia. Remember Saskia?
Oh, from
EastEnders.
Yeah,
with the guy from Spandau Ballet, who we turned out wasn't a
Martin Kemp, not Ross Kemp.
It was like a marble ashtray, and she was trying to choke him with his own tie. But obviously, there's no footage of that.
Well, there is footage. Ross. We've all seen the footage. We've all seen it, Ross. It was remarkably well captured. It's like someone was in the room with them with a camera.
Exactly. But there's no proof of her trying to strangle him. So it just looks like he just slammed her over the head with a marble ashtray.
Yeah.
So, complex cases. Obviously, this
I
was
wouldn't want to be
fictional.
a judge.
No, you wouldn't want to be a judge. It's like, geez, yeah.
It's tough. And I imagine you have to deal with some really horrific things. Which I imagine you get desensitized
I just see horrible
to
shit all the time.
Yeah. But then, do you lose your humanity as a judge over time? That's an interesting point.
I don't think you lose your humanity.
Maybe.
I think you're still a human being. I think that it definitely costs you something. I mean, every job, every walk of life changes you in some way. I guess it's like, do you want the change? Do you want to choose that change?
It's like emergency services, like the horrors that they see dealing with that on a daily basis.
Or even someone who verifies shitty content on Facebook and stuff.
Exactly.
Horrible shit people post and images of the worst things you can imagine.
It won't be Facebook for much longer because they're trying to steer away from the name.
If we change our name, people won't think we're shitty anymore.
The thing is, it's going to work for some people. That's the problem.
Yeah.
They've probably done the math and know that it's worth the effort.
Yeah.
But I mean, they make a good point, and it's pretty fucked. All it is really is reminding us how fucked that situation is. In that, they have so many other outlets and platforms, and Facebook is actually a diminishing sector for them. Like most of us barely use Facebook anymore, right? If you're below a certain age, you'll only be using Facebook probably for like photos and organizations. And sorry.
Well, WhatsApp and Instagram, which
they own WhatsApp and Instagram. Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, really, you don't use Facebook because you hate Facebook and you're like, oh, thank fuck, I don't have to use the fucking platform. In reality, you're using one of their other platforms all the time. Exactly. Yeah. And they're doing
and we're forced to kind of keep those accounts live because there's so many other products that you use that need a Facebook login or something, or a lot of stuff we have to use for YouTube. We have to have a Facebook login just to access them. So it's just like, well, shit. Yeah, they've dominated in that sense as well.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's just a bit shitty that we don't really seem to have any kind of power to do anything. I mean, when I say we, I mean, frankly, I mean humanity. I mean, at least a developed world. Hopefully, there are people out there still living a life that isn't developed enough that they've had to deal with this fucking mental minefield. But like, ultimately, there's been inquiries. There's been things happened in the US, especially where they've had them up in front of this stuff. And there was a fine recently for Facebook of about 50 million or something like that. But like, there's really very little anyone seems to be able to do to actually, see any of these people have any consequence to their actions. And people like Mark Zuckerberg, who's clearly a sociopath.
He died years ago. He's an android now.
Yeah, he's a sociopath. And I mean, it's not unusual. Many successful people are sociopathic in certain ways, because you don't need to be charismatic. You don't need to have the best interests of humanity at heart. And often it doesn't help to have those things. To be good at business, to be powerful, to be capable of controlling the world, you do not need to be a good person. And that's pretty scary when a lot of us are like, fucking hell. I mean, I imagine it is incredible to be that powerful, Mark, and that rich. Although largely, I think most of these people don't do it for the money. They do it for the feeling of importance and power, and the feeling that they mean something, which it must be incredibly intoxicating. You're literally one of the most powerful people in the world. But like, a lot of people, there's so many more people that are like, really love just to live happily and like not give our children mental health problems and not have to constantly consume to feel good. Like, I'd really like that. And there are so many people asking for that. And we have no recourse against people who are essentially creating this misery, which is really hard.
The power is obvious and it's known, like the political power it has. I mean, you've seen recently Donald Trump's trying to make his own social network.
He has,
in itself, because he knows of the power of reaching millions of people with ease. And he knows that, that's how he got into the position he got into in the first place, was through Facebook manipulation and all these, companies that's their only job is to spread this misinformation. So,
and the company that's helping him launch
a dangerous territory.
Share price increased 350% this morning. So if he'd also bought any shares, which undoubtedly the fucking Trump family had in that company before they announced, they're essentially leveraging their cult following to increase the share prices of things, which they've been doing anyway during.
And what's funny about it is
it is incredibly depressing. Like,
it's supposed to be a platform of free speech, but apparently you're not allowed to say anything bad about Donald Trump, otherwise you get kicked off. So it's just hypocritical. It's just like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
it's just another safe space, but for right wingers. But yeah, it's
the only thing I can suggest is just opt out, don't take part, because ultimately I don't think it's going to destroy you to not take part in it.
True, but it's that temptation. And also, it's also the passive nature of everything else you use is probably owned by one of these companies or whatever, and it's just like you're participating through no fault of your own. Sometimes
we could straight up just not use it. I think we feel like there's a dependency on these things, but really there isn't. Like, you can still survive and get by without using these things at all. We feel like an obligation to have these things because of being content creators, but I also think if we abandon social media as content creators, not much would actually happen, really.
Well, that's but YouTube is social media. What we're doing right now is social media.
Yeah. True. I mean,
it's like we would just be saying, well, let's just quit and then get a different job, I guess. Which we could do.
Well, I didn't mean that necessarily. I meant like the big contenders of destroying our mental well-being. I'd argue there are worse ones than others, like Twitter and Facebook being like the big ones, because they are like snippets of people's subconscious and arguments and opinions all the time.
Or Instagram as well.
Instagram as well. You know, the classic scrolling the timeline kind of stuff. That I'd argue
TikTok.
that's worse than YouTube can also be pretty bad with its algorithms and what it suggests to you, and the videos that you consume being like exploitative, manipulative. But yeah, just
and the danger of the fact that you're feeding your own personal wants and interests.
What's that? What was
the question?
Everything's tailored to you, like the algorithms are all tailored to your personal interests, which then puts you, like, say, in your own echo chamber, bubble.
Yeah, but again, like, don't just consume that. Don't get stuck on social media for all your news and your thoughts on the world. Like, go to other sources like Reuters or Associated Press, like that sort of stuff. And
the news we provide here, we provide some great news.
Yeah, or just listen to us, because we have a grand neutral stance on the world. Come on.
Yeah. And the news we give you is the only news you need. And I've got one here, which is actually, in fact, I think everyone needs to hear this. Which the headline says, man throws his penis out of car while fleeing police. Says he cut it off to save the world.
We salute you. We salute you.
That was sent to us by Doug. That's, I mean, yeah, exactly. Beyond that, it's literally just a guy who cut his penis off in a car chase and flung it out the window.
What?
Which is just nuts. Obviously, it's crazy. That's
How did they cut it off? Was it like a quick one?
Let's have a quick look.
Like secateurs?
So he was driving all over the road. He turned off on Old Liberty Road and came to a stop. He opened his door. He was naked, covered in blood, and he shut his door and kept driving. Police eventually slowed down with spike strips and were able to box him in, ending the pursuit, but it took a few tries. And that's when he tossed out that, at that point, he got out of the car. That's nuts that you would... I mean, at what length do you need to go? I mean, that's beyond cutting your penis off in a car chase.
God.
But yeah, the headline says a lot about that one there. That's pretty much
that really does summarize
the car chase tossed out. There's a video, but we don't need to see the video.
There is a video.
Yeah, there's a video of the chase. There's no detailed shots or close-ups, which I know you obviously want to see there. What about this one? This one is actually very recent now. I think it happened in the UK. Man splattered in a very unpleasant way after plane dumps human waste on him and his Windsor garden. It says here a man was left covered in excrement after human sewage rained down from a plane into his garden. The revolting fluid splattered the resident in a very unpleasant way. Speaking to the Royal Borough of Windsor, says he was horrified by the incident. The dumping happened fairly centrally to Windsor in mid-July and covered not only the man but his whole garden and umbrellas. One councillor called it a 1 in a billion chance.
Where does it? I mean, does it normally? Does it normally come out?
Do they normally just? Yeah. Do they normally just go?
Well, I don't think they're meant to like empty tanks.
No, they're meant to empty them when they land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says typically plane toilets store sewage in special tanks, which are normally disposed of once the plane has landed.
Right.
Whatever goes up must come down, and on a very rare occasion, excrement does leak from an aircraft.
But this feels like a lot. This feels like carpet bombing some dude. Like all over his umbrellas, like
an entire garden full of shit. Also, you would imagine it would have quite a kind of a path to it, you know?
Yeah, like literally like napalm, but stinky napalm.
Yeah, they go, is it raining? Oh, I didn't see any clouds in the sky. Oh my god! It's coming down!
In one moment you're dry, Ross, and the other moment you are head to toe covered in excrement. Just
also like just horrific like plane shit as well. Like people eating their plane food and having like horrible meals.
Coming from all over the world.
Oh god, that's so gross.
So apparently sometimes it freezes and then when it does land, it's basically frozen still. But they know a number of incidents happen every year with frozen sewage from planes, but this wasn't frozen. His whole garden was covered. And he was in the garden at the time.
God damn. But next
there aren't any photos of him covered, which I think would be hilarious. But I'm guessing that's the one thing you're not going to send him. You know, oh yeah, here's a picture of me covered in plane shit.
Yeah.
Like, is that something you send in? I feel like that would live. That'd be you'll be remembered or famous for that.
Yeah.
Although he's given his name. No, that's not that's a counselor. Sorry, that's not the right person. But yeah, so look out for the occasional splattering from a plane. If you're on a flight path, this might happen to you. 1 in a billion chance, they're saying, which I feel like is quite high. Like I feel like it might happen
1 in a
more
billion
than that, surely.
or million.
It says billion. Yeah, 1 in a billion.
That's not very high, Ross.
You don't think so?
No.
1 in a billion. No.
No, as in like I would feel like it'd be more than that. More often.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I guess it depends what the protocols is.
Yeah,
like if it.
I guess they're designed not to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is a malfunction.
Yeah, the hatch. Well, it's like to be fair, it happened with us for the RV. We left the poop pipe open, and
that's all it takes.
Going out.
One of Ross's poos probably just went straight through a motorcyclist's brake calipers.
Yeah, they're like, what's this? The full turd going straight out the side of a skidding.
What's that in the road?
Shit on the road. A load of poo. Just came out of that RV.
Have you watched the new season of Sex Education?
No, I've not watched any of it.
Oh man, there's a scene there with some poo, which
scenes?
is just absolutely horrific. Absolutely horrifying.
Really, like showered? We're talking showering.
It involves using a bus toilet and doing a giant shit, and the need to put it into a sock and throw it out a window, and then it hits somebody's windscreen, and they're trying to use windscreen wipers to like get rid of it, and it's just spreading this giant smear. Oh my god, it's hilarious.
Like, there's a few coaches that have like toilets in them, and they always stink horribly. Like, and they fill the back of the bus. And it's just like, if there's a toilet on a bus, you know it's going to be horrible. You don't want to go in there.
And they like the flappy door just stays open or something, or someone forgets to close it. Instantly, the whole
you don't want to be the guy who
stinks.
needs the shit there. You don't want to be that guy, because you know you're just going to be like, well, all right, guys, prepare for this. This is going to be a big one.
Everyone's essentially everyone here it's going to be as if you're sat in the toilet with me.
It's like
who wants to come to the loo with me, strangers?
Stick your nose, clean up my ass. You're about to experience it anyway.
You haven't got a choice. I had a steak last night, and I am ready to go. I'm prairie dogging.
Prime
to pop.
It's rough. Yeah.
Well, thank you for those hilarious news segments there, Ross. I'm going to have to call it there because it's disgusting as hell.
Of course,
and it's a lot for people to stew on. So there you go. Hey, thanks everybody for tuning in today. If you were a Patreon that chose a hypothetical, thanks very much. That's nice. You can also head to patreon.com/hatfilms to join the ranks of the elite that are definitely better than other people.
Oh my God, wow.
And they are credited at the end of the YouTube video that we have. That's right. You can watch us on YouTube if you don't fancy listening. And also, if you are musically inclined, like Ben Luke, who has 2 first names, then please send it in to HatChat.
Very obvious first names as well. Like,
2 big old first names. Ben Luke. Thank you for that. And we'll see you next week for some more hijinks and japes and frivolities with more hypotheticals. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy Ben Luke's full 90s intro song. For your listening pleasure.
Bye.
Buffy
Bye,
theme.
everybody. Buffy theme.
Bye.
Bye.